So we're doing another video on the Jougan once again, and yes, I know you guys are probably tired of seeing Jougan videos. I am as well, to be honest, but I had this interesting idea that I thought you guys might be interested in hearing, so I'm just gonna dish it out and you guys can tell me what you think about it in the comment section. Now this theory is specifically for chapter 70 of Boruto. That's the upcoming chapter, right? I believe that we're gonna get the introduction of the Jougan in the manga for Boruto, and I'm gonna tell you why later on in the video. Now I'm gonna give myself some wiggle room here and say maybe chapter 71 because, you know, I have to give myself time to be correct somehow, you know, so let's put it at chapter 71, chapter 70 maybe. But the theory itself is that Boruto will awaken the Jougan because he's now 100% pure Otsutsuki. Now the reason why I came to this conclusion is because I watched the Naruto the last movie yesterday with the guys on Discord, and something really popped up in my mind when Toneri said something to Hinata. So Toneri explained to Hinata that the reason why he abducted Hanabi is because she has a pure Byakugan.
When this pure Byakugan that's now mine synergizes with my own chakra, it'll transform into the Tenseigan.
Now this is pretty interesting because this means that Hanabi's Byakugans were different or more pure than every other Byakugan user on the entire planet, including Hinata. Then he went on to explain that how he awakened the Tenseigan is by implanting Hanabi's eyes into his eye socket, thus mixing his quote-unquote Otsutsuki blood with Hanabi's pure Byakugan. Now we can of course go and have another conversation about how Toneri is half Otsutsuki or quarter Otsutsuki, so he isn't technically Otsutsuki. We can have that conversation, but I don't want to. I just want to focus on this theory because of course, you know, we can go into that and get into it and say that it doesn't make sense, but we have to work with what the series gave us and use it as the basis. And it's not really that much of a plot hole if you really look into it, because you could say that Hanabi experienced something called genetic mutation that happens in certain people and they develop certain abilities separate from other people, right? It's just basic genetics thing, right? So that could explain why she has a more powerful version of the dojutsu or a more pure version of the dojutsu, which again, it doesn't really make sense for her to have a more pure version because pure means that it's not tainted, and she technically should be impure because her blood has been diluted over the millennia that has passed, so it doesn't really make sense that way. But then again, you now have Boruto who's 18% Boruto and 82% Momoshiki, and he's called a pure Otsutsuki. So again, things are very fluid in this series. And speaking of that Boruto thing, that's what we're gonna get to the Jougan theory. Now, I'm basically basing this entire theory off of this Tenseigan or Byakugan thing with Hanabi and Toneri. So Toneri explained that Hanabi had pure Byakugans, which is why he could use them in his Otsutsuki DNA body to awaken the Tenseigan. So now I'm gonna use that theory, but I'm gonna flip it around. So instead of getting a pure Byakugan, Boruto is the pure being. He's a pure Otsutsuki now, 100%. So this will aid him in awakening the Jougan in the manga. Now the anime is a different continuity, so I'm gonna get to that later on in the video. Now if we go off the manga's continuity, Boruto has never used the Jougan in the entire series. He has never activated it even temporarily. So I'm using this basis to say that because he's now pure Otsutsuki, he will be. Now we don't know how Boruto gained the ability to awaken this dojutsu. Obviously not because you have Otsutsuki DNA, that doesn't mean that you're gonna get a Jougan, right? So there must be some kind of underlying feature that gives him this ability. Now you could say that it was the combination of Hamura's chakra that was in Hinata and Hagoromo's chakra that was in Naruto that combined and created this ability. You could say that. Now that doesn't explain why other Otsutsukis would have this ability if it's that this dojutsu is a byproduct of Hamura and Hagoromo's chakra. Why would they be able to awaken it if it's based on their chakra? So obviously there's another factor that plays into this. So we don't know that as yet, but one thing I do know is that it's an Otsutsuki dojutsu. So you could say logically, he may need the Otsutsuki genetics to awaken it. Now of course you have the Rinnegan, you know, the Sharingan and all those other dojutsus that were passed down through Kaguya, but we know the Jougan wasn't. So it could be a case that the Jougan eye is so great or so powerful that he needed the Otsutsuki genetics in order to trigger this dojutsu. Now, this is completely contradicted by the anime because Boruto, even before getting this Otsutsuki DNA, he was using the Jougan in the anime, which that's what I'm saying, like they shouldn't have allowed him to do so. Now then again, you could explain it away and say that okay cool, he was able to briefly flicker it on and flicker it off. He couldn't control the power, he couldn't use it actively. So then you could say that because he's now pure Otsutsuki, he will be able to fully awaken the power because he now has the means to control it. So that's why I'm saying that it's highly possible now that Boruto will be able to perform or to awaken, fully awaken the Jougan in the upcoming chapters, and we might see it in the next chapter. I believe so as well, because chapter 69 really did imply that Kawaki is going to try and fight Boruto once again. Now I do believe that since Kawaki is using his dojutsu, it's only fair that Boruto awaken his as well. So we might see Boruto using some new abilities to counter Kawaki's Ishiki abilities, because we got a prelude of what the fight would look like in the Borushiki versus Kawashiki fight, and we see that Kawaki is able to get the upper hand on Boruto because he has access to excess abilities and Boruto doesn't, which is weird because he has Momoshiki's abilities as well. And Momoshiki did have a few abilities, but I don't know where they're going with that, so it could be a case that Boruto doesn't have fused Momoshiki's abilities. He can only use Momoshiki's abilities, and the only ability Momoshiki had was to absorb chakra, then throw it back at 2 times the strength that you absorb it at, right? So it could be a case that this is an indication that Boruto doesn't have fused Momoshiki's capabilities. I don't know, maybe that's the case. But then again, like if Borushiki comes out and it's Momoshiki in control, you could argue that Boruto should be stronger because, as Code explained, when you're able to tap into the battle experience of the Otsutsuki, you get stronger. So if the Otsutsuki themselves are in control of the body, they're technically able to access that information readily because it's their mind, it's their abilities, right? So obviously Borushiki being in control, or Momoshiki being in control of Borushiki would be stronger than Boruto being in control. So that's why I think they were relative when Kawaki was fighting Borushiki, which was Momoshiki in control, when they shouldn't be. The reason why is that because Momoshiki was in control, that he could access more of the Otsutsuki power more than Kawaki can when he's in control of his Kawashiki state, which he was in. And you technically can't call it Kawashiki because there is no Ishiki, but we're going to call it that because of the features. He gains the horns and the dojutsu, so we're just going to call him Kawashiki because that's what we call Boruto, right? But he technically isn't Kawashiki. So all of this really to say that I do believe that when Boruto awakens this dojutsu, he might be able to level the playing field, and I think that's what's going to happen in the upcoming chapter as well. I don't think Ada is going to be a big factor because, again, they're Otsutsuki fight, they might be able to overpower her abilities, and then we might see them fight, and that might be the stage show leading into chapter 71, possibly. So all in all, that's the entire theory. I do believe that Boruto being able to access this pure genetics of the Otsutsuki will push him to awaken the Jougan permanently, and we will see like Boruto going off against Kawaki and finally having a fair fight in some sense, because Kawaki is able to access dojutsu abilities and Boruto couldn't, so this might level the playing field there. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section. Drop a like if you like the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.